When something feels hard, do you notice how quickly your brain tries to explain it? Not just solve it, explain it. Why it's happening, what it says about you, what that means. I've been thinking about that instinct lately because humans don't just experience struggle, we narrate it. We tell ourselves a story about it. Hey there, welcome back to the Loose Threads and Stitches podcast. This episode continues the Enough chapter in our limited series, exploring growth, identity, and the quiet hum of more in modern day life. We've talked about moving targets, we've talked about wiring, we've talked about capacity, and today we're stepping into something that's softer, and that is the stories that we build when things feel difficult. So if you've been following along with this limited series that we're doing, thank you so much. And if something here resonates with you, sharing it with somebody that you care about is always, always, always appreciated. Okay, let's talk about storylines today. Humans are meaning-making creatures. Okay, when something feels uncomfortable, uncertain, or off, we look for a reason. We don't just let it be generally, okay? Because explanation creates stability in our lives. If I can explain why something feels hard, it feels a whole lot less chaotic to me, even if the explanation isn't perfect, okay? And that's not a weakness, okay? That's coherence. We like coherence. But here's where things get interesting. If we don't account for context, we often internalize the explanation. If we don't account for overload, we might assume incompetence. If we don't account for shifting expectations, we might assume inadequacy. If we don't account for pace, we might assume weakness. And slowly, a storyline starts to form. I'm behind. I'm not disciplined enough. I've always struggled with this. And once that storyline settles in, it can feel factual, even if it's not, okay? Let me give you an example here. Imagine someone, we'll call her Anna, okay? Anna is a thoughtful, capable, creative. Lately, she's been feeling very, very scattered. She forgets small things. She feels slightly behind compared to all of her other friends. So she builds a story. She says in her head, I'm bad at managing my time. I've never been the organized one. I'm not wired for this. But what Anna hasn't fully included in this story is this. She's navigating a really tough season in her life right now, a season of change, okay? Her responsibilities have grown. Her decision load has increased. Her phone rarely rests, and it is always like at 8% by the end of the night, okay? Her brain isn't broken. It's full. But the story she builds doesn't say, I'm carrying a whole lot more than I usually do. It says, I am the problem. That's what happens when context is missing. Stories can reduce shame. Language can be clarifying. But sometimes our first explanation is incomplete. It's not wrong. It's just incomplete. And when explanations are incomplete, they can quietly intensify self-criticism because self-blame feels solid. It gives us something to fix. And fixing feels productive, but sometimes we're trying to fix a narrative that needs expanding, not repairing. This is one of the reasons that I truly love working with tangible materials. If seams don't line up in quilting, there is context. There is measurement, there is tension, there is fabric stretch. We don't look at a crooked seam and say, I am a complete failure. Okay? At least not all of us, all right? We ask, what has made this happen? Okay, that shift from identity to influence is powerful, right? What influenced this? What caused this? It's a gentler question than, well, I guess it's impossible for me to sew a straight line. And often asking what caused this is a much more accurate question, because technically you could sew a straight line. You just may be off by, half an inch or something like that. All right. So if something is feeling really hard in your life right now, instead of immediately asking yourself, what is wrong with me? Maybe try, what is influencing this right now? What season am I in? What am I carrying? What else is going on in my life that might be affecting this? What expectations have shifted? That question doesn't remove responsibility, okay? It adds context, and context softens shame. You are absolutely allowed to question the story. You are allowed to revise it. You are allowed to include more of the picture. You're allowed to grow, but you are also allowed to decide when you feel finished. If you're keeping up with this series, that is the overarching message behind this whole series, is you are allowed to decide when you feel finished. And next week, we're going to take a brief pause from the Enough chapter, and we're going to talk about something a little bit lighter, because I feel like I'm throwing so much at you, even though it's like one episode a week right now. I feel like I'm throwing so much deep thinking stuff at you. And I just want to have some fun next week. I have a little surprise for you. So I'm telling you that just so you'll know, and you won't have braced yourself for whatever Christen's going to talk about next week with this Enough chapter. And I know that I've heard so many people say that they are really loving this chapter. They're loving the deep, thoughtful questions that really make your brain stretch and kind of think things through a little bit more. And actually, I wasn't going to tell y'all this story, but I think I'll go ahead and throw it in here. So another thing is, when you're being really hard on yourself and you're thinking, I just can't do this, I'm not capable of this, why am I always wrong? Why am I always late? Why do I always rush through cutting or sewing or something like that? I would challenge you that we'll use our friend Anna here as an example. So say Anna's going through a really hard time in her life, like we talked about. If you were Anna's friend and she told you, I just can't get any of this right, I'm just a bad quilter, I can't do this, and I'm never meant to do this, and you have the context of knowing everything else that's going on in her life right now, would you sit there and agree with her and be like, yeah, Anna, you just don't have it together, something's wrong with you, go find all your marbles and bring them back, because you don't have any of them. You lost your marbles. All right, go get them. Go, and then come back and talk to me. That's not how you treat a friend, right? That would be ridiculous. That would be so cruel of us to say that to another human being. And I know my friends who are watching this video and are having this conversation with me right now, you would be mortified to hear your own words say that to another person, right? Get yourself together. This is ridiculous. You know she's going through a hard time, and you're still just pushing her further down, right? No. What would you do to poor Anna there? She's going through a hard time. You'd say, hey, this isn't a big deal. This is just fabric and thread. If you need to go to an easier project, or if you just need to quit and go drink a cup of coffee or something like that, it's totally fine too. If you need a nap, that's totally fine too. Quilting should be a joyful activity. It shouldn't be something that brings you stress. Be gentle on yourself, Anna. This is a season, right? But we were talking about this in my Stitch Sister group the other night, and that's why this came to mind, is I personally have a really hard time being that cheerleader for myself. Okay. Like if somebody else, if any one of my stitch sisters in my membership group or anybody that is a close friend of mine came to me and I knew that they were going through some hard times and they were just down on themselves, I wouldn't be that way. I would immediately try and be their cheerleader and be like, you're being way too hard on yourself. Your expectations are too high, and this is just not going to lead to good things for you, right? But when it's me and I'm thinking to myself, like, what is wrong with me? Well, could it be, Christen, that, like, I don't know, let's just go into like fictitious examples right here. School has started, or maybe could it be that, like, spring break is here and the kids have things that they want to do and you no longer are like able to control your own schedule and like I mean, I don't know, like a million things could be happening, you know. You're expected to be here and here and here and here at the same time, and I don't know, somebody messed up the Google Calendar. It was me. It was me, in case you're wondering. I messed up the Google Calendar and double booked myself in many moments and had to go sort through that mess because I can use the fact that, like, I had a concussion. I can use that. I'm going to use that excuse until, like, it is no longer valid. And I'm not sure that the day that it is no longer valid is ever going to come because it's a really handy excuse. And sometimes it does, like, I'm getting off topic here, but sometimes that really does work. And that is what happened. But also, maybe you can just be like, I don't know what happened. Like, but giving yourself that grace, the same that you would extend to any other human being, even a stranger, if like Anna's not even your friend, but you just see this woman having a hard time, like you would be nice to her, right? So, going along with today's episode, be nice to yourself too. All right. You need that same grace extended to Anna, extended to your own self, right? And it's not because you are just completely incapable. That context of what else is going on in your life right now is a huge, huge thing, right? Think about that, okay? So maybe your story and the things that you are telling yourself just need more context. So that wraps up today. I will see you next week on the Loose Threads and Stitches podcast, and I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a fun episode. It's going to be a little bit of a mental break for all of us, okay? And I love you so much. I will see you next week. I'm Christen with ISeeStarsQuilting.com. Make sure you're following this podcast, and if you haven't already, leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify so that this podcast reaches more people who need to hear these good messages of, hey, we're all normal and we all struggle, but we don't have to do it alone. And oftentimes you just need somebody who's on your side. And I am happy to be that person for you if you just need somebody on your side. Okay? I love you. I'll see you next week. Bye.